Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today. With conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen, follow, and subscribe on social media, Dear Business Coach pages and groups, Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. And don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. And we're unmuting and we're going live. My name is Elizabeth Walker. Welcome. Thank you for coming to podcast guesting and the ROI of LOL. The ROI of LOL is a book by Steve Cody and Clayton Fletcher. Clayton Fletcher is an international professional stand-up comedian, and he's coming to Roanoke, Virginia, to the Jefferson Center, and I'm hosting. I invited Clayton to Roanoke to teach his workshop, which is based on the book, or rather the book is based on his workshop, The ROI of LOL, that he co-wrote with Steve Cody. If you are in the Roanoke, Virginia area, or if you think you would be in the Roanoke, Virginia area in October 18th, that's in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I have a free copy of the ROI of LOL, How Laughter Breaks Down Walls, Drives Compelling Storytelling, and Creates a Healthy Workplace. So this is an easy read, it's a fun read, and it talks all about using improv, comedy, and sketch comedy and stand-up skills for business, presentations, building rapport within your team, as well as when speaking to board members, for example. So if you're an executive or team leader who speaks, this workshop is for you. There's a foreword to this book by Linda Rutherford, as CAO and CCO of Southwest Airlines. That's a fun inclusion here in the book. And there's also actually some tips on how to use improv games, what improv games work. And then there's a huge section in the back. Actually, it's like a 15-page section, just of resources and things that you can find. So this is actually a huge resource book. So today is October 7th, and it's a little past 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and I've been doing these LinkedIn Live audio events every Monday almost for the whole summer. We had a couple weeks here and there that were holidays that fell on Mondays. So thank you so much for being here with me. And last week, we did try a little exercise regarding podcast guesting. We sent a sample email to a cold email to a contact. And I want to tell you how that turned out, too. I did speak with Lily, if you were in our session last Monday, where we drafted a short email together to send to one of your contacts in your network to get a meeting started or to invite somebody to a meet and greet regarding a podcast or interview opportunity for yourself. So you could just get some practice around drafting a message to somebody that you would like to talk to, as far as getting yourself in front of a podcast host. Now, this also works if you would like to interview somebody else, but the talk today is called Podcast Guesting and the ROI of LOL. So let's see, what I want to do is make sure I get my notebook out with you so that I can follow my notes along too. Today's kind of a loose talk because I'm promoting the book and my workshop on October 18th. Again, that's Friday, October 18th. It's a full day seminar if you're in the Roanoke, Virginia area. Let's have a little chat. I have a free book copy for you and an invite to the workshop. So what is the ROI of LOL? The ROI stands for return on investment. And so in general. You're probably familiar or have heard return on investment used in a number of ways. We usually use return on investment in terms of finances, and sometimes a lot as well marketing. And so the ROI of LOL in this case really is to speak about what the value is regarding using laughter, of course, and humor in your business skills. So in my opinion, what Clayton and Steve do in the book, The ROI of LOL, is Steve brings his business presentation, his business rapport building experience and observations and talks about those there, as well as Clayton brings his understanding of how to read the room and what to do when you think your audience isn't with you or isn't following you, for example. So if you're interested in using humor in speaking engagements, or even if we're just in a meeting situation, often when I was in an office, for example, every Monday or Tuesday, we would have a roll call and a sales meeting. And, that's just a room of about 10 of us maybe on the sales floor who would gather in a room, and we would have kind of a powwow for the day. And so that's another good example of a place where you could use humor consistently, or use these skills if that's something you're interested in, putting humor into your team meetings, speaking skills, and the things you do in your workplace to build rapport. So welcome again. Let's check the time. It's 8:35. I do still want to actually stick to the format today a little bit of using our one page of notes. And so all summer and now fall, we've been talking in these 30-minute LinkedIn Live audio events about what to do when you're a podcast guest. And this is just a kind of a loose framework to help give you some confidence and really give yourself a way to remove any barriers that might trip you up from being a podcast guest, and give you this little safety net of a one piece of paper notebook page that can help you stay on track. So when you're actually speaking in a podcast, you give yourself the room to make the eye contact you want to, listen actively the way that you want to, and answer questions the way that you want to, and also equally, maybe more important, be comfortable and on your feet a little bit, thinking on your feet a little bit, to be able to share the stories you want to share. And that's where the ROI of LOL really comes in. So, learning how to use humor in a business setting, at first, I would share with you that my personal experiences that I wish that I knew how to incorporate jokes when speaking to a crowd or a room, and that has its place too. However, one of the things that I can speak to you personally about the takeaway from this book is about team building rapport, as well as the storytelling aspect, which I've spoken a lot about in these LinkedIn Live audio events. So if you've been here before or you're new, the underdog story is what I tend to focus on with you here in these LinkedIn Live audio events, because they work fantastic for any kind of speaking, and you don't have to be a professional or a comedian to be able to infuse some stories into your speaking experience and your speaking engagements, like a podcast interview, where you have the chance to really share kind of some personal insights with your audience, as well as, this gives you an opportunity to maybe share a funny story, and you don't have to be, say, a professional at setting up a joke or knowing exactly the mechanics of how comedy works. So we can get some basics down, and you can walk away from Clayton's workshop and actually have kind of a handle on how to write your own humor into your speech. Are you an executive or team leader in the Roanoke Valley, Virginia area? Hi, my name's Elizabeth Walker. I'm inviting you to a special one-day only event at the downtown Jefferson Center here in Roanoke, Virginia, a leadership and comedy experience called The Power of Laughter Masterclass with Clayton Fletcher, author and stand-up comedian. Visit the QR code in the ad and visit walkerconsultingworkshops.com. Early bird pricing now through September 30th. Don't miss out. For example, here today we're talking about underdog stories. So one of my favorite segments of Clayton's teaching is the underdog story. So I've written underdog story down in my section on my note page of notes here when we get to stories to share in your podcast interview. So let's go back to the top of the page. So as a podcast guest, when you're speaking, I usually recommend keeping one piece of paper in front of you. I'll take a sip of my coffee here. And thank you again so much for being here today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to email. There's a link in the comments section on this event. And while you're there, if you're in the comments on this event today, on the LinkedIn event page for this event, please go ahead and post and share links where you are or may have been a podcast guest in the past. I see Penny in the room today, and so she has been a guest on the Dear Business Coach podcast. And that is a fascinating interview because Penny shares stories, a couple of different stories that are both from her childhood and also from her professional experience as an adult. So that's actually something else I want to remind people. I wrote that down in my notes last week. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, you can share stories that are from your childhood. You can share stories that are from college, from high school. These are opportunities for you to share stories that don't necessarily have to be from your, say, professional experience in order for you to kind of show your personal and show your personality in your podcast interview. Okay, so I almost got off track there. Going back to our one page of notes, the point of having one page of notes in front of you is not to fill it up with all the details you could possibly fathom. It's actually to keep a lot of space on the page is partially the goal. So you don't want to be putting small writing, only pretty much bullet points. In fact, one of the things that we can do is just draw 3 giant boxes on our one page of notes. I like to use a standard notebook page, 8.5 by 11. That's just the size I like. And I will make 3 boxes. I'm doing that right now. If you hear some background noise, it might be that you hear my pencil on the page here. So at the top of the page, in the very first box, I'm actually going to write call to action. Now, funny, I have used a call to action today in this LinkedIn Live audio already. However, we didn't talk about it. And so here we go. I've already forgotten to share with you my call to action because I didn't have it on my notes at the top of the page yet before I started this LinkedIn Live audio with you. So first, for live example of why these notes pages are helpful. One page of notes. What is your call to action? And you can also call this your one-liner. So I'm also writing down on my page, one-liner. Because I encourage you and myself to remember to keep your call to action to one line. So today, my call to action for you is to buy masterclass tickets if you're in the Roanoke, Virginia area. So you can go to my LinkedIn profile, and if you're already there, there's a link in my bio section that says buy masterclass tickets. That's the link that I want you to click on today. So this is your call to action. Now, what's going to be similar about my call to action and yours for the purposes of today's LinkedIn Live audio is that you are on LinkedIn. I know you are, because you have to have a profile in order to be able to listen to this talk today. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is certainly take advantage of your LinkedIn profile. And if you would like to do some updating to your profile, you might want to get together with somebody who can help review your profile. Make sure it's up to date and looks kind of the way you want it. So today's talk is not about LinkedIn profiles. However, I do want to say that from feedback that I have received from well, maybe feedback's not the right word, but what I have been hearing and noticing from professionals that I've met and spoken to through the Dear Business Coach podcast and Walker Consulting workshops, the workshop LLC that I operate, it came to my attention that there are a lot of us out here professionally that have a profile on LinkedIn and are not proud of it. And so I would encourage you, if that's you, if you're listening to me talk to you right now and say, you know what, Penny, I'm going to use you as an example because I'm comfortable saying your name. If Penny, that's you, for example, Penny's actually, her profile is fantastic. So maybe I could go to Penny for some profile help, actually. But for example, if I said to you, Penny, you can use your LinkedIn profile as your call to action. If you're secretly thinking in the back of your mind right now, while I'm telling you that you are not sure if your profile is really worthy to be a place where you want people to go and see, if you don't feel like it truly represents you, that can be a really, shot to your confidence. That would keep you from being able to tell people to follow you, or more importantly, DM you. So I do recommend telling folks to have a way to get in touch with you directly. So my call to action is to click on the link in my LinkedIn profile to buy masterclass tickets. However, that same space where my link is could be, is where your link would go. And your link might be to a website or to a calendar link where somebody can actually schedule an appointment with you. The other option you have, and remember what we're going over right now, is options that you can use as far as your one-liner call to action. And we're using your LinkedIn profile as an example because it's easy for purposes of today's talk. Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you for the heart. Yeah. So it's telling people what to do is the action. Do you want people to click on a link? Do you want people to DM you? Excuse me. Do you want people to connect and follow with you? Yes, connect and follow is fun and important. However, I would encourage you to use an action, tell your audience an action that you want them to do that is the quickest way to actually start a conversation. So if you are not, if you don't have a problem with DMing people, if you're kind of comfortable with messaging a little bit, then tell people to DM you. I just had an interview with a woman this week, and that was her call to action. She has a PhD. She teaches and coaches, and she has written all over her profile on LinkedIn in her About section. Her name's Dr. Carrie Graham. You can see all over her About section that the instructions say to DM her. I think she says it like 3 or 4 times in her About section. And then when she and I got to our podcast interview, I already had that information from her, and it made it really easy, and there was no question. Dr. Carrie Graham wants people to DM her. So that does mean that Of course, that might be her preferred way of contact. So don't tell people to direct message you if you never check it, right? That's not going to be helpful to you. But either way, it is an action. So if you want people to click on the link in your profile, or if you want people to send you a direct message, I encourage you, you don't have to, but I definitely recommend making sure you tell people that. So the reason why we want to actually tell people that is because, number one, you will forget. Number two, people need an invite, like an invite. Have you ever been on someone's profile and been almost ready to send them a message and you thought to yourself, because this has happened to me a lot, where I think, I don't know if I should send that person a message. What do I say? And will they even see it? And if they do see it, will I say something silly? Now, why are all of these fears coming up? Well, for me personally, because I don't know if that person really wants to be receiving a message. You don't want to look like, or I can speak for myself, I feel sometimes like, I want to make sure that I come off professional, and I want to make sure that my message lands with that person in an inviting way, in a way that they know it's a real person and they would like to respond to have a short conversation. Now, the goal of these conversations for me is to get to a meet and greet. So that's what I would encourage you to do as a podcast guester, right? As a person who wants to be a podcast guest. And this goes for me too, when I'm inviting people to be a podcast guest, I want to get to the meet and greet. So are you a LinkedIn user? If you are, you can join me for LinkedIn Live Audio with Elizabeth every week, usually on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will have a LinkedIn Live Audio where we talk about podcasting for executives who speak and podcasting for team leaders who speak. These are the themes that are currently running. If that sounds like something you're interested, visit me, Elizabeth Walker at Work, on my LinkedIn profile. The first message that I have with an exchange that I would have with somebody around a meeting is very short and sweet. So let me make sure that I'm still on track, because I'm just talking, and I think I'm getting away from my one page of notes, and I need to get back to this one page of notes with you. So at the top of the page, we had in the first big box, the call to action, one-liner. I wrote down DM, circled it really big. So let's do that. I actually do have a call to action for today. The ROI of LOL book giveaway, if you remember, in the description of the event and at the top of the 30-minute session today, I mentioned that I have copies of the ROI of LOL by Steve Cody and Clayton Fletcher, How Laughter Breaks Down Walls, Drives Compelling Storytelling, and Creates a Healthy Workplace. This book is corresponding to the workshop that I'm hosting, the masterclass in Roanoke on October 18th at the Jefferson Center. So if you think you'll be in the Roanoke, Virginia area, if you're interested in the workshop, or if you already are in the Roanoke, Virginia area and you'd like to check it out, send me a DM on LinkedIn so that I can talk to you about getting you a free copy of the ROI of LOL. The way I do that is we have a short direct message interaction, and I will just ask you if you have a mailing address, or if you would like to meet on a Zoom, and that's how we get together. Real easy, so I can get you a free copy of the book. And of course, the goal is I hope you love the book, and I hope you either get yourself to the workshop, or you invite somebody or share the news with somebody who would like to be there. So there's 50 seats available. It's a full day seminar, and bring your laptops and your phones. And that it's on October 18th, Friday. So the ROI of LOL, again, the ROI stands for return on investment. And return on investment in terms of incorporating humor into your workplace, into your speaking, into your presentations, into your team meetings. This is simply a way for you to think about how, can I connect with my audience? And you can use this through storytelling. So what would be like a story that you could share with your audience that might have a little bit of humor in it? And again, we don't have to be professionals at setting up a punchline or knowing exactly what, makes everybody in the room die laughing. My biggest takeaway from Clayton so far in his workshop teaching has to do with being able to just kind of open up a little bit and share a story that is going to make you feel connected to your audience, and in turn have the audience feel connected with you. And that's why we love underdog stories. So back to our one page of notes. In the middle of our page, in the middle box, if you wrote down if you drew 3 big boxes on your one page of notes, the top box just says call to action, your one-liner. Maybe you wrote down direct message there to remind yourself to tell people, DM me on LinkedIn. It does help if you actually... Well, it helps me anyway, sometimes if I actually write the scripting out. So whatever works best for you, either way, just again, short and sweet and simple and not a lot of detail, and keep it to one line. Now in the second box in the middle of your page, this is where we write down a couple of stories. I put usually like 2 bullet points here. The underdog stories are... Tell me about a time when maybe all of the circumstances were stacked against you, right? Maybe you were up against a big deadline. Maybe you or a new person in a strange land. And I'm borrowing these prompts from Clayton Fletcher, and he actually shared this with me in his interview with me. Clayton was on the Dear Business Coach podcast in February. That's actually how I met him, and how I invited him to Roanoke to teach his workshop is because he was on the podcast, on the Dear Business Coach podcast. And so now here we are about 6-7 months later, and we have a live workshop in play in October. So underdog stories is something that I learned from Clayton. And this is one of the easiest, quickest ways, in my opinion, or for me anyway, to implement storytelling. And this way you can, sometimes your stories are going to be funny naturally. You probably have your own natural sense of humor. And that's actually something else that Clayton has bestowed upon me, if you will, or at least it's a part of the interview that I listen to over and over again as I'm sharing clips and advertising the event, is this one clip where he says that a sense of humor is like a fingerprint. It's unique to you. Your sense of humor is unique to you. So if you want to copy someone's format in terms of learning how to set up a joke and tell a funny joke or a funny story, nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good way to get comfortable. Just remember that you actually don't want to, the goal here is not to sound like somebody else. So what's an underdog story that might be your experience? Now, when I'm talking to you as if you were a team leader, right? Last week and the week before, the topic was actually podcast guesting for team leaders who speak and for executives who speak. So same thing, this applies here. You can use underdog stories if you're a team leader to share times when you and your team were up against a big challenge. Now, one of my examples recently is from Tom Whalen's interview. Tom Whalen is a national sales director for McKesson. He is based out of Richmond, and McKesson sells basically healthcare equipment, if you will. They are a large provider of healthcare equipment. So regardless of the job, right? In a sales situation, he had a story that could apply to everybody. And it was just an experience of his when he was young. And again, this is a story from when he first started in sales. So when I spoke with Tom a couple weeks ago, he is a well-seasoned national sales director. But the story that he brought to the podcast interview was actually from when he first started in sales. So he probably was in his 20s, or, maybe fresh out of college, for example. And as soon as he started telling this story, it took me right back to when I was that age and what I was feeling when I was new in a sales role. And even if you aren't brand new in a position, when you come into a new job, right, you kind of have to make a good impression, right? Or at least I would think so. So Tom tells this story about how when he was getting started, he says, well, I kind of showed up a little bit late. And he says, and this is the tone of voice that he's speaking in. He says, oh, I kind of showed up a little bit late. And I just, I kind of like read the script, and I just the way I imagine him at work, the way he uses his tone of voice in this story is funny. It's funny from the beginning because you get it right away. He's, we're talking about starting a new job and being at the beginning of a sales career. Now, I don't know why he started this sales job. I don't know if he chose this job or if he just had to get a job. Who knows? But it's a new job, and he says, I would come in a little bit late, and I would leave a little bit early, and immediately I was giggling at him. He doesn't even there's no punchline. He didn't share a punchline. Well, he does, but not right there in that part of the story. But I was already laughing because I could tell. I mean, first of all, the juxtaposition here, I'm not sure if that's exactly the best word to use, but what sets up the unexpectedness of the story, right, in Tom's share on the interview was that at first, immediately, I'm looking at a national sales director. I'm interviewing somebody on a podcast. So he already is set up as an expert. He's already set up as somebody who's successful. And his title already says national in it. So I'm assuming there's an additional level of success there because you're a national sales director. So as an audience member or as a person listening to the podcast, I have this person poised in my mind as an expert of sorts, a successful professional expert. And he starts sharing this story and he says, I would come in a few minutes late every day. And it made me start giggling immediately because there's some tension between what I thought I was listening for in this person's story, as well as I was surprised a little bit, even just by his opening. Clayton says that a great punchline is short, surprising, and shows a shift in attitude. And so my example here with Tom's story is just to tell you there are a lot of different ways that these little surprising tidbits and things that make people giggle can really come out in your story naturally without you having to set up some big giant punchline. So Tom gets to the end of his short story, which is only about 30 seconds long, by the way. And, that was his boss coming to him, who said his boss ended up coming to him saying, do you actually want this job? Well, maybe you should kind of act like it, and that doesn't sound like a traditional punchline, but I laughed really hard when he said that. And then I ended up using that clip for, to advertise his interview. So these are short stories that can show underdog situations, and you can share your personality. All right, guys, it's 9:00 a.m. Eastern time, so my time's up. And at the end of your one page of notes, in that last box on the page of notes, write down your call to action again. And mine is buy masterclass tickets. Click on the link in my LinkedIn profile. If you're on the comments or the event details for the LinkedIn Live that you're listening to with me right now, then you can go to my profile Elizabeth Walker. Elizabeth Walker at Work is the profile handle, and the link in my profile says buy masterclass tickets. So that's your call to action from me today. I hope that you've had fun. I love these live audios, and I really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much, and send me a DM about anything you want to, or if you would like a copy of the ROI of LOL. All right, talk to you next time. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic week. You're a superstar. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Elizabeth in Floyd, Virginia. This has been an episode of Dear Business Coach.